All right, everyone. Welcome to the Novi Knows podcast, the podcast that we created this podcast is for our builders, by our builders. We're going to get our builders on here, our key users, and let them share experiences and ways they're using the Novi software. One thing we've noticed is everybody uses it differently. And today we have Jason with French Brothers, Jason Kipker, who French Brothers has become great friends with Novi. I would say, definitely a top 5 account. We love you guys. And, Jason, I'm going to start out with a story. And you and I kind of talked about this before the podcast started, but we actually met French Brothers, the majority of the French Brothers executive team in Florida. If I remember correctly, I think there was like a cocktail hour with ECI and the Lasso folks that Novi participated in. And then after, you guys had I swear it was like a roofing representative with you, and that kid, he got everyone excited. But we made our way over, the Novi team and the French Brothers team made our way over to a crazy kind of carnival style ride. Do you remember that night?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What
I
do you
think,
remember about that ride?
well, I think most of our team, both teams ended up getting on it. Um, a couple to start with, and then seemed like everybody was following suit afterwards. So I don't know how many trips everybody took on it, but it was a
Yeah,
good move.
I think I only had to pay one time because I think your roofing representative paid for the rest of my team like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah,
Loved it. Let's get that guy to Vegas at IBS this
no
next.
kidding. No kidding. Yeah.
Well, right on. Well, let's jump into the podcast and with a few questions. Jason, kind of let everybody know your background, who is Jason, right? Like, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so currently I'm the chief revenue officer with French Brothers Homes. So I kind of cover anything revenue generating. So I'm over sales, marketing, design, selections. I started with French Brothers about 8 years ago as a sales manager for them, and have kind of moved my way up from sales manager to sales and marketing director, or I think director of sales, and then director of sales and marketing, and now my newest role. Prior to that, I was actually a sales trainer for a national restaurant company for 12 years, as well as dual career as a licensed real estate agent in Dallas, Fort Worth. So, been around home sales quite a bit, sales in general, even longer.
That's awesome. One thing I love about the French Brothers team is it's a very diverse background. Like you get talking to the folks over there, like Kevin Joel and I have become pretty good friends, and he's got a really diverse background. I just think it helps in overall in your company culture and what y'all do.
Yeah, it does. It's interesting. We're based in a very small town that most people have never heard of, Alamogordo, New Mexico. So that's kind of forced us to think outside the box when we're hiring for certain positions, and has caused us to have a very diverse team from diverse backgrounds. And I mean, we think it makes us stronger, kind of bringing all that together. So
Right. Well, I truly believe it does make you stronger. One thing that we do at Novi is we try and hire people that are different.
mhm.
Essentially, we don't want to just hire the same person with the same idea we want diversity there so that as we're pushing the boundaries and creating new technology, there's a different idea coming to the table or different perspective, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about French Brothers.
So French Brothers Homes has been around for almost 40 years now. Actually started as a custom home builder where, building one or two homes a year. Started by two brothers, actually the French brothers, Tom and Jim. Jim owned a truss plant prior to, but they've always grown up in the construction industry, swinging hammers at an early age. And the company really, they brought in the third owner, Crane, who had a background in interior and graphic design. And that really kind of started our whole sales and marketing. And when the company really started growing, we're now, going from 2 to 3 closings a year to on track for about 300 with goals of expanding that. We're We're predominantly in all of the cities that we operate in are in New Mexico, but kind of smaller towns. Our largest city is Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Right.
Probably the only one that most people have ever heard of that we build in. But, over the next few years, kind of expansion plans to maybe some of our neighboring states, either Arizona, Colorado, or Texas.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I admire of what French Brothers has done is you've really had to spread out to hit the populations that would enable you to grow, right?
Yeah.
And that's a little different than most builders. If you're in northern Colorado, there's plenty of opportunity there.
Yeah.
If you're in northern Arizona or Tucson, plenty of opportunity. Texas, all those big cities. But you guys have built this business plan, and I think it goes back to what you were talking about of being creative and different ideas. Because I know you guys, there could be an hour in between job sites or maybe
Yeah, our
more.
two furthest markets away are about 4.5 hours apart
Right.
from each other. So we have a mountain range that separates. We lovingly refer to it as Eastern and Western regions.
Right.
We've got a mountain range that separates the two. So
Well, it's
yeah,
cool. And you guys have definitely used technology and internally training your team and communicating to bridge that gap, right?
mhm.
This
Yeah.
is probably something, this is a business model that y'all probably couldn't have gotten away with 15 years ago, right?
No, and that's really, a lot of times because we are in small areas, it's hard to find staff,
Yeah.
especially ones with experience in certain areas. So we've utilized quite a bit of technology, automation, workflows. 2 years ago, we hired an IT director, and that has been a huge change for us. I mean, being the size company we are, you wouldn't think we have an IT department, but we realize that when it comes to connecting different platforms that we have, a lot of times there's not a total plug and play system, and you need that individual that can kind of write code and make those systems talk to each other. So
Sure. Absolutely. So I got one other French Brothers related question, and I honestly don't know the answer of this. I know Kevin and I were at a conference earlier this year, and he talked about it a little bit. But I think as we're like again, the purpose of this podcast is just to share ideas of what our builders are doing.
mhm.
But this has nothing to do with Novi. You guys recently went to a what do we call it? Ownership by employees there at French. Something along those lines.
Well, we actually have a profit share
Okay.
program where once the company hits our net profit percentage goal, everything beyond that is split 50-50 between the employees and the owners of the
Yeah.
company. So it really has all of our employees really vested in the process and what we're doing and really getting behind it, because the more, not just the more revenue we generate, but the more economical we are with those expenses that we have, the more it increases that net profit and profit sharing for our employees. So, and it's everyone all the way down to, our assistant builders in the field, all the way up to, the president in Kevin's role.
Yeah, so there you go. If you're listening to this podcast and that's something you've been thinking about, there's a good reference. And again, nothing to do with Novi. I love it. There's a book that we kind of live by here. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality. It's treating the client, going above and beyond. But I also think you have to push that into internal, right? Like you got to
Yeah.
take care of your people. You got to make sure that it's a place they want to work. So
Yeah, our purpose statement of the company is enriching the lives of our people, our customers, and our communities.
yeah, I knew
So
that. Yeah.
we kind of encompass all of that there.
Well, let's get down to the nitty gritty. You've got some wild NoviHome stories, and I don't know what you're going to share with us today because I know you have some really good ones. And if anybody runs into Jason out in the field, actually, Jason and I will be doing a panel at the Digital Marketing Summit in Raleigh, North Carolina, end of October.
Yeah,
Yeah.
24th.
So if you get to the Digital Marketing Summit, you want to, you're wondering if he left out some of the wild stories from the podcast, you can definitely ask him about it. But I want to talk to you. There's three subjects that I want to talk to you about, and I'm going to kind of let you just talk about how French Brothers and you and the team implemented this and how it's changed your business. But the first one we'll go through, I have written down here, communication through warranty. And that's something we're getting hit with a lot. And I believe that Novi has a great solution for warranty and a mechanism for buyers to find and engage through the warranty process. But kind of tell us how French Brothers is using Novi in that capacity.
Absolutely. I have to say that this was probably the problem that brought us to NoviHomes initially. So, as all builders know, one of the highest turnover positions that we have in the industry is our warranty technicians or customer care techs. And, it can be a stressful position. Well, prior to going to Novi, and as probably most builders experience, what ends up happening is that technician, all of your customers during warranty tend to have that person's cell phone number. So when they're reaching out or communicating, they're doing it through text. Well, ultimately, what happens is you have a warranty tech that leaves the company, and then you'll find out a month, 2 months. I mean, we've had it as far back, I think, as 4 months, where we finally get a homeowner that gets a hold of us and says, I've been texting Joe for the last 4 months about my warranty concerns, and he never responds. And we have to say, well, Joe was replaced by Joel 4 months ago. So that's one of the areas that Novi has really solved for us, because once the home closes, we actually switch over to where our warranty tech is the rep for that customer through the next 2 years of their warranty period. So all communication goes through the chat feature at that point. So they never have the cell phone number of the warranty technician. All communication is done via chat. That way, if somebody does move on to another position or leave the company, we reassign those homes to the replacement, and the customer never sees a service interruption. They continue to chat. We also have kind of loved the feature that even throughout the process of building and buying, all the appropriate team members are on there to answer any questions that the customer might have. So with our buyers, we always tell them, chat is the best place to ask a question, because regardless if you're asking a question that the sales associate needs to answer, or your design or selections coordinator, even your builder, all of them are part of that profile. So they all see the chat, and then the appropriate person's on there able to answer. But it also lets the rest of your team members know what that answer was.
Right.
So it's additional training for them. We've had builders that say, I didn't know that's how appraisals worked, when there's communication back and forth between our closing coordinator or sales associate. It also, allows senior management to kind of keep a pulse on what's going on. We kind of are on homes spot checking
Right.
into the team. So of the executive team, not all of us are on every home that we have, but we're on some of them where we can kind of see, and it's great training opportunities for our builders and other staff when, maybe they didn't answer that question the best way. And we're able to real time kind of get in touch with them, give them feedback. So we've loved having that chat. I know that the chat feature, we're with HubSpot for our CRM. So with the NoviHomes and HubSpot connection, all of that customer communication lives in HubSpot inevitably. So even after we've gone through the build process, the sell, the 2-year warranty, and we've deactivated the customer's profile, we still have a record of everything that went on. And it's been beneficial for us. I know one of the stories, we've had a few buyers that have maybe decided not to pursue purchasing the home after they've selected everything for it, and have kind of claimed things that we weren't communicating, and having that record to go back on and say, hey, we saw that you logged in, you saw all the responses that we did, you were chatting back with us. Just having that complete record is invaluable, because anyone that's ever had to submit that type of information for an arbitration or something of that nature, and had to go get people to give you screenshots from their cell phone text messages and go through email. Just being able to download one file and say, this is all of our communication with this customer is amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I can remember, and the chat feature's been out for a couple years, and it's continuing to evolve. There's actually a new release that's coming out next week that'll enhance the chats even a little bit more, make it a little more defined on who's talking to you. But I can remember the meeting I was sitting in, and the builder was explaining to me how, first of all, the sales agent, which I'm okay with, the sales agent communicate with the buyer on whatever platform it is. If it's
Mhm.
TikTok or, Instagram or Facebook Messenger or email or text, whatever you got to do to sell the home, right? But after that, the builder should own that communication regardless of the platform. And I can remember being in the first meeting when chat started to, we started to think about, wow, this is a major issue and miss right now in the industry. And the builder was explaining to me, the owner was explaining to me, look, my sales agent was on Instagram. And that's how they communicated. And then when they went under contract, then it started to be texting between my sales agent and their buyer agent, and then texting between my sales agent and the buyer, and then sometimes both of them. And then my construction manager came into play, and the buyer agent was texting my construction. And I'm sitting there going,
Yeah.
you legally don't have access to the majority of that data as the builder, right? And so if something does go to arbitration, maybe someone will be nice and give it to you, and maybe they won't. And that's when I was like, okay, we're going to develop a chat system. We're going to develop something that the builder, at the end of the day, the buyer is more comfortable. We're going to communicate with them, then we're going to find them on their level. We're going to bring the whole team together, and then everybody's on the same page.
Mhm.
And when you do run into an issue, as I always feel like open communication will eliminate the seriousness of a lot of issues, right?
Yeah.
So,
And there's none of that mom told me, dad told me. We'd always have that between builders and sales associates where, you have the buyer that says, well, my sales associate told me this. With everything being through Novi, the builder can scroll back and say, actually, no, I see that your sales associate told you this on this date.
yes,
And it just keeps everybody, you know, one of the things we believe with our buyers is being pretty transparent about the process, and it keeps everybody transparent throughout the process.
right. No, I love it. The second thing I want to talk about is the way that you use documentation through Novi, and kind of explain just to everybody else. And again, this is why we have this podcast, is because you guys are using this differently than 95% of my builders. But I love it. The way that you're using works for French Brothers, and it's genius.
Yeah, we utilizing both kind of the photos or files as well as the notes feature. So obviously with the notes, that's more internal communication that we're having. So with notes, commitment dates to the home of when it'll be complete from the builder. There's times when maybe you've got a little repair to do in an available home and you don't want your sales agents showing that home. We refer to it as the ugly duckling phase. All homes get to it at one point, and it's just not the best representation for sales to bring them in at that point. The builder will put that into the notes section. Like, hey, we're in the ugly duckling phase. Let's not show this home. Give me a week.
Right.
Also with the, documentation, our builders, we kind of have a standard operating practice of things that we want them to take photos of. So, I mean, a story that comes to mind, we actually had a market where a home was broken into and the appliances were stolen the day they were delivered. So full appliance package, they hadn't been installed. They were still in boxes, actually inside the home. Happened to be that the builder was taking update photos of the home. They actually took photos of the appliances in the boxes, and there was markings on there from the vendor, labeling it at their warehouse and delivering it. Well, after those appliances were stolen, the police in that market were able to find them on Facebook Marketplace for sale. and were able to identify that they were ours because of the photos that we had documented of the appliance delivery. They could tell that this is exactly the ones from French Brothers. They were able to set up a sting to purchase the appliances. The local law enforcement caught the individuals who had a storage unit full of stuff that they had taken from multiple builders, but we also got our appliances back. So what would have been, a $4,000 variance to order new appliances for this home, we got them back. And I owe how quickly we were able to Novi, that we had that documented on there. And within 5 minutes of filing the police report, we had those photos over to the detectives that then immediately started searching on the internet and found them before somebody purchased them.
That's wild. That's listen, there's $4,000 going back to the rev share for all the employees, right?
Absolutely.
But it is, right? And that is such a cool story. And we've got a few of those actually. And as we do this podcast, I'm shocked when I hear those stories and similar ones like that. And I'm like, oh, it's so cool that they have these photos. They have easy access. It's not hard to get them. It's easy to send over. So that is killer. With photos, because you guys take quite a few photos.
Yep. We do builder updates once a week where they actually do progress photos. And we don't just do it of sold homes. We do it of our inventory homes as well that are unsold.
So let's talk about that, because NoviHome is releasing a couple new features, two features right now. One is called listings and one is called home tracker.
Mm-hmm.
And home tracker is specifically, listings feeds into home trackers. Y'all get to learn how this works, and Jason's already seen it. We built that partly due to the need and the way that, let's be honest, Jason, French Brothers took our technology. It didn't quite fit you, but you knew it could. We tweaked it a little bit, and you guys have been using the tweaked version. But home tracker essentially was, a lot of those ideas came from what you all are doing day to day and creating your specs and those weekly photos that are being updated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always talk to Kevin with Novi and tell him we hacked the system.
Yes,
in the
you
beginning,
did.
But it was we've become 98% spec or inventory homes. And we really saw the need for, buyers when they bought it, even as a completed home, they wanted to see what their home had been through. And that kind of goes to the transparency that we talk about, that, you get photos that show what's behind the walls. So it's been a great selling feature to our buyers that, hey, when you purchase one of our move-in ready homes that, you didn't get to see the process, we're going to add you to the account to where you're going to see every photo we took from the day we basically chalked out your home on the lot to the day it was complete. It's been great for us. I mean, we utilize those photos, our marketing team does, when they're promoting homes through social media, or, being that we are 4.5 hours between our markets, it's a little impossible for my marketing manager to get out to every community every week to kind of grab those photos. But she's able to sit in her office, pull the photos that our field is already taking, and utilize them for her marketing collateral, which saves us time. She's not, messaging a builder saying, hey, can you get me photos of 1234 Main Street? Because I need to do a social post about it. She logs on, downloads the photos, creates the collateral, and is posting it.
Just so everybody knows, the way that they hacked the system is the way Novi was set up. Is once the buyer went under contract, you could set up, or before, you could set them up a buyer profile, but as they go under contract, you could then start, with the chat and the photos and videos and the whole interaction, warranty documents and all documentation, etc. What you all did at French Brothers, and there's a couple other builders that did this also, Bessler in Northern Colorado is another one that pops up to mind, is you would go in and where you would create the buyer profile, first name, last name, you would put the street address and maybe the zip code, and then start uploading to that profile. And then once they went under contract, we would go in and update the first name, which was the street address, to the buyer's actual first name and then last name. And then they got all that history, right?
Yeah.
Well, with listings, just so everybody that's listening understands, listings, you just start with 1234 North Fairway Drive, and you're building out this spec profile. It can start, groundbreaking foundation. There's milestones. It's really cool what we built. And then as soon as it goes under contract, boom, you just hand it right over to that buyer. We took what y'all hacked and streamlined it, made it pretty, a little more workable, right?
It's so much better. Yeah.
It is. It is better.
We've run into it where we've been not merging, but copying files from one profile to another. When a buyer's fallen out, we've got to copy those back to a spec profile. I love the time savings of not being able to do that. And honestly, the urgency kind of features that are built in I know everybody's used to seeing it with things like, Expedia or hotels.com, where it says, 3 other guests are looking at this hotel room and there's one left. Right now in today's market, urgency is, there's so many articles telling people, wait, interest rates will go down, now's not the time to buy. Articles that say it is, but we're all, as humans, programmed for FOMO. We have fear of missing out, and knowing that there's 3 other buyers that are interested in this property, that does something. Hey, I don't want to miss out on this home because there's not another one like it. So I need to make a move before one of them does. And then I love that when it does go under contract, we let all the people know that had favorited that home that, hey, you missed out, but don't do that on the next one.
Yeah, at my house, we like to say sucks to suck,
Yeah.
Sucks to suck. Maybe you should have pulled the trigger.
Urgency is a hard thing if your sales associates are trying to push urgency, it tends to come across as, car salesy, being pushy. But I mean, we're all programmed to it. How many times Amazon lightning deals?
Yes.
You've got 14 minutes left to check out or you lose this deal. Hotels.com and Expedia. Zillow even has those features. We're programmed to follow that urgency, and having that as part of the listing features, I think it's great.
Well,
passive marketing for us.
Yeah, it is passive, and it allows you're marketing the buyer in a way that they feel like they're in control.
Yep.
They feel like they're in control. They can, and listen, we're talking about a feature that the majority of people here that are listening, this podcast will go out in the next 2 weeks, haven't seen yet, because this is a brand new feature, right? But as we were building this, we thought, hey, today's buyer wants to feel in control, and we want them to feel in control. However, in reality, we want our salespeople in control. We want them driving. We want them seeing what the buyer's looking at. We want that buyer knowing there's 15 other people watching that home, and we want them to see the update. So if there's a milestone update from foundation to framing, they know they received that update, but they're thinking, well, if I received that update, so do those other 15 people, right?
Yeah, I just was sharing the new features with my design manager for the homes. And one thing I didn't even think of that she actually brought up was it helps her team know what are the most popular combinations, cabinet colors, countertops. She's going to be following it to see which homes are getting more follows. And do we need to replicate that type of design in more inventory homes moving forward? So another data set that, we really didn't think of, but gives them a data set of, hey, as I'm releasing more inventory homes, what are those popular options that people are gravitating towards?
Yeah. Well, I personally, I've been getting excited. I'm one of those gift givers that if I buy you a really good Christmas present, I don't want to wait till Christmas. I'm like, hey, just open it now.
Yeah.
And I've felt like that with listings for the last three months as we've been building this out, and it's coming together and I'm seeing it. And it's, a lot of things are coming together. The market's perfect for this right now.
Yeah.
It's a perfect for this feature. And I've just been like the energy. I'm like, oh my gosh, when the builders see this.
Y'all told me about it at IBS this year in Vegas, and I've been chomping at the bit for it. I think anytime I talk to somebody on your team, I'm like, hey, can you tell me when the
Where's it at? Where's it at? Well, Jason, I appreciate you. I know everyone here at Novi appreciates you and the entire team of French Brothers. I appreciate you jumping on this podcast. Again, this is for our builders, by our builders, and we want just to share these examples of, hey, French Brothers is using it this way. And that may or may not work for you in your market, but it's a way that you can use it, right? Here's some, post-close warranty ways that you can engage the buyer, keep them in sync, not lose traction. So I appreciate you. We love you guys. And thank you for jumping on the podcast today.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure.